Thanks again, Chau, for hopping on to another episode of Untapped Stories. So I know we were chatting a bit before show, and I was lucky enough to catch your profile on Instagram where you have an awesome page, really dedicating to youth baseball in particular. But I guess for the audience listening in now, again, mostly parents and athletes who we reach, before we get to your page and your boys and the awesome young career they're having in baseball, and maybe you could, for parents, kind of walk it back and maybe describe how you got into the content game on Instagram and I guess what really motivated you to want to build a page just about youth sports and baseball.
Yeah, it's funny. Thank you for having me, first of all. So my page really started. I have my personal Instagram account. I was sharing everything about our life. Obviously, I felt like my family and friends, they were probably sick of watching the baseball content. It's truly our life. Like every single day we have practice, we have lessons, we have a scrimmage, we have tournaments, we have everything under the sun. And I just felt like, I want to make a page where maybe in 10 years, my kids can look back and watch all the memories they have playing youth sports, and their main focus right now is baseball.
Okay.
They love it. So then it just turned into a baseball page for them.
That's a really cool thought. I haven't heard of anybody say that. I mean, which is fine. People are trying to run a business and maybe make ads off it, which if you do, amazing. But I never had somebody say outright that they went into it thinking that it could be sort of like a memory keep for their kids. Because a lot of parents take photos and do photo books, but that's a really good thought, like having the videos and kind of like following their career as they started.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I've tried all of those like photo books. I have like a million photo books printed out, but there's nothing as reliable as like uploading it into the internet and just making sure, that in 10 years that they can look at it. And I never thought that it would really get going the way it has. I never planned on making any kind of like money off of this or anything like that. It just kind of happened and it just kept growing. So
that's really cool. It's how the best entrepreneurial stories usually start. For yourself, just curious, did you play sports growing up? Like, were you big into softball or any other sport, or were you kind of a non-sports parent that just happened to have two athletic boys?
I am the most unathletic person in my family. Definitely did not play any sports. I ran track only because I felt like that was going to be the easiest thing, and it definitely was not. I was very wrong there, but I definitely wanted to, be with my friends and hang out. So I ran track and was terrible at it. My husband is the athletic one. He played football all throughout high school, so he knows way more about sports than I do.
Very, very cool. And what about, let me switch to your kids really quick. It sounds like they're very into baseball. They both play competitively. I know we chatted about that. Is that their only sport at this point, or do they play other sports for fun? Or
Yeah, so my oldest one, well, actually both of them, they enjoy basketball, but we do that, with the rec league in our town. We don't do that competitively. We have not delved into the second competitive sport yet. I just don't know if we have the time. Baseball really consumes most of our life right now.
I mean, you said most days, is it legit 7 days a week? I guess, well, across two kids maybe, but is each kid doing something one day a week, or do they get a break in there?
Well, so they practice with their team 3 days a week.
Okay.
There's always some sort of batting in our batting cage at home on the days that they have off. Then they have some sort of lesson at least once or twice a week. Either it be pitching, hitting. Sometimes my older one takes catching lessons, and then sometimes we try to work in a fielding lesson.
Okay. It's not a light schedule just for baseball.
It is not. It is not. And it's funny because people are probably like, oh my God, you guys are crazy. But if I don't schedule those lessons, they're the ones that come up to me and they're like, Mom, I didn't have a pitching lesson this week or something like that. So as long as they're asking me and they're the ones approaching me about it, I am perfectly okay with them being busy seven days a week. I would never want to be the one forcing them to do anything, because this is all, first of all, it costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
And second of all, it takes up a lot of time. So if you're not the one approaching me and asking me to put in the extra work, I am not going to, invest our time into this.
Maybe for parents who are 5 years behind you, they have an athletic kid, they don't know where to start with them, whether it should be competitive or rec. How did you see in your kids that they wanted to go down this road? Kind of like you mentioned, maybe did they play their first year in Little League and you realized all of a sudden, like, hey, they're actually good and they're asking me to do more? Because I think a lot of parents, and the point that I'm trying to get at, a lot of parents debate that at some point. Like, okay, my kid's better than the average. Should I go down the road where you guys are now, where it's all in, as long as the kid wants it, or no matter what, should I hold them back? Like, how did you guys make that decision at some point to go all in on baseball?
Both my kids started on Little League, and they were playing with their friends, and they were having, a lot of fun. And honestly, I thought it was fine. I never thought to go the travel route. It wasn't until our other friends were kind of like, well, this is the way we're going to go. And they started leaving Little League.
Okay.
And then we were like, okay, so this isn't a viable option for us.
Got it.
I mean, this may get some bad. I never just like sat there and was like, oh my God, my kids they're destined to go into the travel world. Our friends were kind of motivated us and said, they're pretty good. Like, it's time for the next step.
Okay.
And nothing, no bash on Little League. I loved it. I genuinely enjoyed it. I just think, that those seasons are so short. Yeah. And if your kid really loves it and just wants a little bit more, a little bit more direction, then travel is the way to go.
Do any of your kids, or any of their, it sounds like your kids don't, but any of their friends play both? Is there a disadvantage, or does the club team not let you play Little League?
So actually my kids did both. It's like a 50-50 thing. Like some of our friends were like, we love Little League and we're going to stay here. So we were like, oh, well, we'll do that too. The time constraints in Little League are not that bad.
Yeah,
so we're like, we can do both for a little while. And then I think once we started, like my older one catches. So once you get into the world of pitch count and catching and just arm care, I think that's when we were like, okay, this might be a little bit too much.
That's fair.
And then you're not giving 100% to either team.
That's
so
a really good point.
Once that started becoming a problem, then that was when we pulled back on Little League.
Yeah, I didn't think about the overusage because it's already an issue I know in Little League alone. Like if you don't play competitive, because I've followed the Little League World Series just for fun. But yeah, I'm sure if you're on two teams and you maybe pitch a quarter of the time when the team might need you half the time. So that's probably too much.
Right.
And what about maybe one hot button U Sports topic? And it sounds like your sons are in that exact age bracket. And luckily, it sounds like they're not hitting that. But what about the thought of burnout? Does that cross your mind at all as a parent? Like my kids are doing baseball so much that eventually they're going to not want to do it as they get into high school? Or have you even thought about when that would happen or how you would approach that if it came up?
Yeah, we think about it all the time. Especially I know like right now we do it so much and I am fully aware of that. Like I feel like competitive sport parents get this like terrible rep that they are not self-aware. I am totally aware that my kids do this 7 days a week and it does scare me that they will be burnt out, but I feel like as long as they love it right now, and it's something that they're doing that's a healthy lifestyle, I'm going to keep encouraging it. The day that they don't feel motivated or, I feel like burnout is a combination of things. It's feeling all of the negativity in the baseball competitive world and just the physical aspect of it. It's just a combination of things and just making sure that you are the parent and you are controlling all of those aspects. I feel like that's how we're trying to prevent burnout. Again, my oldest one is 13. I don't know if it works. We'll see in 5 years, but that's how we're trying to prevent burnout now.
I mean, I've seen it, and we've talked to a lot of parents, even some sports psychologists, mental performance coaches, and burnout really shows itself, I think. Just kind of an FYI for parents and athletes who hear this, and even for your kids too. It's like it can come in the form, like you mentioned, negativity. But I think that the physical usage is one that a lot of people mistake, because when you're young, 10, 13, whatever happens, you'll bounce back very quickly. Once you get into high school, even college especially, I mean, you're mostly playing one sport in college, but using the same muscles over and over. So even if you love the sport, like I did with basketball, you're going to constantly run into sprained ankles. Baseball, I'm sure, elbows, shoulders, so like that stuff. But kind of like you mentioned, if you love the game enough, that won't stop you from pushing past, because every athlete hits that eventually. It's the ones who love the game and want to keep going that get over the injuries, they get over the negative self-talk, and eventually you kind of wind up on top. But it's hard. I think the one thing that you guys are doing really well, though, just a compliment and shout out to you guys, if your kids still want to play basketball locally, like that's awesome that they're shooting hoops maybe in the winter. Even if it's at just like a church gym down the street, it doesn't matter. It's a different sport, different muscle group. So having, and I love that combo, one main sport if the kid loves it, and just like a fun side thing that's not that takes their mind off of competitive baseball. I think it's a good mix for kids.
Yeah, for sure.
So the parent side, not to try to ask like a viral question, but has there been any like surprises once you've gotten this far into the baseball world as a parent, like that you didn't expect? Maybe it's like crazy parents on the sidelines in competitive games, or just how maybe like cutthroat it can be, or it's not that. Maybe it's actually people think it's that, and people are just genuinely nice when you get there.
I feel like it's a mixture of both. I mean, we get it all. I compare, this may be a terrible comparison, but I compare like the baseball world kind of like a workplace. Like you never know what you're going to get. You
That's
never
fair.
know what kind of game you're going to walk into or what kind of parents you're going to encounter. You just really never know. And like for the sake of your children and their baseball career, it's like you're trying to navigate this like workplace and like making sure that they're getting the best experience that they can, but also like your interactions matter as well.
Yeah.
I get it. Like I get the craziness of it. I am probably guilty of it myself, where you're just like so invested in this team and you know these kids personally, and then you're sitting at a game and you're hoping for the best outcome for them. And for youth sports, unfortunately, there's a huge pressure on winning. And, you know, just like with baseball, it's like, if you know how like baseball tournaments are set up,
Yep.
Saturday, you get the 2 games. You play, win or lose, whatever, doesn't matter. You're still going to come back out on Sunday. But if you lose, you get punished with early morning 8 a.m. games. So if you go 0 for 2, then you kind of know where you're going to be on Sunday. So then you've got the parents like walking out like, oh, go home, go to bed, because we already know what time we're going to be here. And then on Sunday, I feel like that's when the games are so much more heightened, because if you lose, you go home.
Yeah.
So if you get eliminated the first game, it's almost like, oh my gosh, like, are we terrible? Are we horrible? It's like such this unnecessary pressure that we put on ourselves. And then when you're out of the bubble, you're kind of like, oh my God, I was ridiculous. And, you know, but in the moment, you're just kind of like, oh my God, you want them to play more. You want them to have more reps. You want them to, you know, have fun with their friends. So you want them to win. But that's the pressure. That's the whole pressure of a tournament, you know?
That's a cool way to break it down, though, because I think a lot of parents do get lost in the winning aspect. And every child, every parent wants their kid to win, but it's probably not that. Like it's wanting them to just play more games, have more fun, be out there for longer, and to do that, you have to win. So a lot of parents like kind of
Yeah.
have that as the end goal, but really what they care about is working up to that. So for any
Right.
parent out there, you're not crazy for wanting your team to win. It's just you. We all know you want your kid to have more
Right.
fun. So
Like, I feel like the winning culture, a lot of people think like, oh, it's because I want the rings, I want the trophies, I want the medals. Like, no, absolutely not. You want to get your money's worth and
Yeah.
play as many reps as you can so that they can get the experience. And, you know, when you play 3 games a weekend, sometimes it's like there's like a little bit of disappointment, but yeah.
3 games is still a lot, though. I know I stopped playing baseball before high school. I played basketball, but I would have some AAU basketball tournaments. We'd have 7 games over 2 days. I'm sure you got to the same
Oh
with
my
baseball
God.
if you make it that far. Like one tournament was crazy. I think it was like 8 or 9. But you know, it's also a lot for a parent to sit through. So I'm sure there's some parents out there, maybe not every weekend, but some weekends where by game 3 they lose. They're like, thank God
yeah.
I can go home and have a
Yeah.
lunch.
Oh yeah, I have those weekends too. I'm like, oh my God, I have a baby shower to get to. So hey, if you guys don't make it, sorry, we'll be back next weekend.
Yeah, I'm busy. I can go see my adult friends for once in 12 months.
Yeah.
That's really cool. What about from a parent standpoint? Just a funny thought, but have you seen anything like outlandish on the baseball field? Well, not really from the kids, but from the parent standpoint, because I can think of like multiple stories from my own childhood. But is this still like that now? Are parents crazy on the sidelines and like yelling at umps and getting really involved in the games, or are people
Yeah.
more tame now that social media is a big thing that you can get caught on camera?
No, I think we're still pretty outlandish. I feel like when you're in the moment, it's just like, and it's funny because I feel like umpires, I mean, I feel so bad for those umpires. It is.
They don't get paid enough.
You could not, no, you could not pay me. You can give me any dollar amount and I would be like, absolutely not. I am not standing there and getting berated by these parents. I feel so terrible for them. At the same time, I totally understand how it feels when you feel like you have an inconsistent one that's terrible. And
Yeah.
like your kid could be in like this terrible slump and then they strike out on a ball that is like not a strike. And like, it's nothing personal against the umpire. Like, of course, I don't even know. I don't even know him. But I think it's just like all these emotions where you're feeling it for your kid. And, you know, over time you learn to control it. But I totally get it. When your kid is just having like the worst day and then they get terrible calls and you're just like, oh my God. Oh, you just feel so bad, you know? And then you're taking it out on the wrong person. But
And you can't really
So.
do much about it. I think the
Right.
flip of that though is that if I was in that spot, I have boys that are 2.5 and 1, so I'm not close to Little League yet, but maybe I'll try to frame it just for healthy like mindset tips out there for parents. But in the fact that no matter what you do in sports or life, like every kid's going to fail at some point. So if it's on a baseball field and they get a bad call, like that's just life sometimes. So having them learn that as opposed to breaking down, it's a good life lesson that it won't always go your way and you can't control it.
Oh, for sure. For sure. And I try to teach that to my kids. And like in the moment, I am feeling so upset about it, but I would never want my kids to make excuses or, you know, teach them those bad habits. So I reel it in, and then on the car ride home when, you know, they're complaining, I'm just like, it's baseball.
Yeah. I can always
Even though I didn't feel that an hour ago, it's baseball.
Yeah, you can't share the real parent emotions.
Yeah.
I can always remember my dad too saying, if you knew you had a bad umpire, why didn't you swing? I'm like, okay, well, that's fair.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. You better swing. You better try. Don't leave it up to the umpire.
Go down swinging. What about, I've asked a couple of like really good baseball minds this. I haven't asked the parent yet though, so I'm excited to get your answer. We had a high school baseball coach on who, actually the Ivy League Baseball Player of the Year, maybe 10, 15 years ago, and he gave a great response. But I feel like, has it trickled down, like the era of data and launch angles and kids just being so obsessed with metrics, is that prevalent in travel baseball nowadays, or is that really blinded maybe until you get to high school? Like do your kids know their stats and their exit velocity and how fast they throw, or are they still just playing the game?
Oh my God. Yes. They're like obsessed with it.
Oh, wow.
And, you know, obviously we are not, you know, trying to emphasize that or like highlight it or obsess about it. I don't come home and I'm like, oh my God, Bradley, you threw like 1 mile per hour faster today. Great job, buddy. You know, we do not talk about that at all. Okay. But I mean, they are obsessed with it. They're obsessed with numbers, you know, and in baseball, it's like, I get that it's not important, but to them it is, you know, and that's how they measure personal growth. So I understand it. I just try to emphasize that it's not important. It's just hard to get through, you know, get through to them that it's just not important right now. But, you know, their baseball profile, it's listed online. You can see, you know, there's just such a big emphasis on it.
Okay.
You know, one day you'll be into it and, you know, the baseball stats, they look at it. I know a lot of parents who actually block their children from looking at it. So I totally get it.
So is that, maybe I know a couple because I coached volunteer basketball, but are you seeing those stats on something like Team Snap or Game Changer, or do you have like a baseball reference database where all the top nationally ranked teams have like a profile listing? Is it internal or external?
Both.
Really?
So both.
Okay.
So
that's crazy for 10 and 13.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I mean, they start at like 8.
I couldn't. I could see how kids would obsess over that though.
Yeah, and you know, even if you want to shield it from them, it's there, it's out there.
Yeah.
But Game Changer is definitely the most popular one. It's like right in your hands. You know, someone on your team runs it. Okay. And you know, Game Changer like does all the work for you, and you know, averages all your stats and everything. So
I guess who's inputting those stats? I get it for, you know, swings and misses and like your baseball average, but the other stuff, like how hard you're throwing, who's tracking all that? The same person?
So the same person's a volunteer from the team. Even now you could connect a pocket radar to your Game Changer and it can radar their pitching speed, which I know. Yeah. And you know, one day you'll, there's a ton of drama that can ensue in Game Changer alone because they're the ones, it's based off of what they see, right? Their judgment call.
Yeah, it's their
sometimes. So an error, or whether it was a hard hit ground ball or just a ground ball, that can skew the stats, which is also become very muddy waters, if you can imagine.
See, when I last volunteer coached basketball before I had kids, our kids would always ask us how many points they scored, and they would see it in the box. But that's as far as they got. There wasn't, you went, 15% from 3, or you missed like 40% of your free throws. I don't know. Maybe it's more of an opinion at this point, but I feel like having those numbers, not totally shielding, like you said, the kids will ultimately find them some way, somehow. But maybe the best way is what you're doing. If they're out there, you just have to deprioritize that for your kids because you can't avoid it. You can't avoid phones and the internet. Like some kid is going to have an iPhone. Doesn't make a difference if you give it to them or not.
Right.
But, deprioritizing the value is the best you can do as a parent, I guess.
And then, there's a huge emphasis on like batting averages on Game Changer, which if my kid has a bad day, I'm like, don't look at that. You you contributed to your team in so many other ways that's not going to show up in numbers.
Yeah.
And, and maybe tomorrow you may not contribute that way, but maybe you'll have a great hitting day. Like, you just never know.
Yeah.
And with baseball, it's just so hard. Like, I try to uplift my kids and, give them all the positive feedback as much as I can. And, you just hope some of it sticks.
I will say, and maybe to keep going on it, baseball really does seem like the hardest sport for that, because football, it's hard to measure that. I mean, if you get tackles and interceptions, touchdowns, great. But like everybody knows, you can make a ton of value in football without having to like show numbers for it. Basketball, if you get a bucket that day, it's a great day. I mean, you want to score more, but like baseball, the best day you can have sometimes is like a 30% success rate. Like, what kid would see a 30? I mean, maybe they know 300 is great for pros, but like, no kid, unless you're the next Mike Trout, is going like 9 for 9 every single tournament, especially as you get more competitive. So, that's a hard lesson, or I think a hard pill to swallow for kids probably who know those numbers, who love baseball as they get older. But if they can, maybe the flip, if they can learn it, maybe they're better off for it, not having to, not face failure as they get older. So.
For sure. I mean, like Mason's last game, he hit 2 line drives. I kid you, beautiful swing. Everything was done correctly. Line drives directly to the outfielder, right? That game, he got on base because of a drop third strike and an error. And he was running bases. He did the correct things and, lined out. And we were like, oh my God, that was like an amazing hit. Like, we're so happy. Of course, he's like walking back like, oh. Like, it went directly to the player. There was a drop third strike that he outran the throw, and then there was an error. So now you're on first base, but you did all the things correctly, So baseball is just so
unpredictable.
So unpredictable.
Yeah, I'd say out of all the sports that I know, youth sports, it's got to be the hardest. From going back to a parent standpoint, and I love these kind of like one-hitter questions because I feel like other moms and parents just need to hear. But what's one hack you've sworn by over the years that's worked? Maybe it's a scheduling hack, a game day routine hack, a carpooling hack, whatever it is. What's really worked for your family to make baseball life easier?
I am a very type A person, so I like to be very organized, and I feel like that's really helped our family over the years. But I feel like having a catch-all bag in the car has been, a game changer. Just like having like your first aid kit, the dry snacks, everything, and just leaving it in your car.
Okay.
Or a change of clothes, socks, a belt. Like, you never know. Like, baseball is so unpredictable. So just being prepared in your car, that's always going to be there, I feel like has alleviated a lot of emergencies.
That's really smart. I could have used that a handful of times when I forgot my shoes for a game or baseball. I'm sure they forget their hats all the time. If you have an extra hat.
I always leave their old cleats in my car. Smart. Because you just really never know.
Yeah. And if they're too tight, it's better than having no cleats. So.
True. Very true.
What about, not a sports mom hack, but what about from your account, everything you're doing day to day with like running an awesome page and really putting positive messaging out there? Have you looked, and maybe it's a scary thought, and because it's kind of as you're getting older, for me too as a parent, but like beyond when you're kids, so when they go through high school, hopefully they have a great career, even further than that, college pro, I would love to see it. What do you hope your kids get out of baseball when it's all said and done? And if they make it or not to, some of the higher levels? I've
thought about this too, because you just never know like how far baseball, you don't know when the last game is going to be, really. And I've thought about this, and this may sound so corny and cheesy, but life is so short. I've learned this many times, and I just feel like I hope they look back on this and appreciate, hopefully, all of the time we spent together as a family, because we're always together, and which is probably my favorite part about baseball. Obviously, I'm their mom, and they're boys, and my boys are not like the most super talkative. They don't really like, you ask them how their day was. Yeah. Oh my God, the teenage years. It's, you ask them how their day is and you get like a one-word answer, like good. Like, I feel like this is like something that we share together as a family. I got lucky that both my boys ended up loving baseball, but we spend so much time doing this together that I hope when they look back that, these were the good old days.
That's really sweet. I think if a lot of parents had that perspective, then their kids would probably play looser and play happier because they're not putting that pressure on just to win and to make it to the best high school team or to make it to the college team.
Right.
And kind of like whenever that last strike hits, as long as you had a good time as a family along the way, that's really the most important thing. So that's really, really cool. I guess my final question, Chau, as I'm thinking it through too, and trying to help other parents understand, like, I guess what the pressures are nowadays. How do you help your kids balance? Because I think this is the one thing most parents really struggle with. How do you help them balance their dreams without letting like the pressure and all the comparisons really take over? And I guess what I'm getting ultimately is stuff like social media too, right? Like it's so prevalent for kids nowadays to know like, the
Yeah.
stats and references. Like, how do you
Yeah.
help them just stay grounded? Because I think all parents want to know that nowadays for the age of really your entire life being online and people knowing your
I think
stats.
just kind of being aware of the fact that they put so much pressure on themselves already. They get pressure from their coaches, they get pressure from their teammates, they get pressure from their friends, that you are their one safe space and that you're always kind of putting out positivity, which I know is like so hard, and the day to day is so like tiring, and we're all exhausted and we all have so much pressure on ourselves. But just being that safe space for your kid, I just feel like there's already so much pressure on your kid. They know when they're having a bad day.
Definitely.
Having intentional conversations with them and just making sure that you're always putting into their head something that's going to be not only useful but like super positive for them, because they're always hearing so much negativity and they're always playing the comparison game. Sports is so tough, and I feel like if you can make it a better experience for them, that way that they can play the long game. It's obviously, I feel like advice I can give myself and advice I would give all sport parents.
I would echo that a million times over. Having a dad who played football in college, mom didn't play sports. My mom was always I could strike out a gazillion times and she'd be like, "You did great today." And no matter what, though, it's nice to have somebody say that. My dad
I
would always
know.
give me more real feedback. Never too
Oh,
tough, but it's stuff you needed to hear, and it was never, like, again, over the line. But there's
yeah.
got to be somebody, I think, for a kid to keep them wanting to play for a long time, to keep the
Right.
positivity going. Because if you have too many people that are negative or giving critical, kind of critical feedback, then eventually the kid's going to be like, "Am I bad? Am I not good?"
Oh,
But
100%.
if someone's positive in their ear, I think it goes a long way. So even
Yeah.
we had Monet Davis on the other week, famous baseball player, and she was laughing when I asked that one something similar, because she said like, "Yeah, my even when I was going through the Little League World Series, then I had like a down after that. It's like my family always had my back, and no matter what I was doing, like I knew I could count on them
Yeah.
and look up in them in the stands for a thumbs up." Kids
Oh,
care
that's
about
so
that.
sweet.
The
Oh,
kids,
yeah.
I mean, they lean on that for for their support and their confidence. So
Yeah. Yeah. You see, it's like you see these parents, I don't want to say dads, because I don't want to give them like this terrible,
it's mostly dads.
reputation. It's mostly dads, but you see them go in on their kids at the fields, and you're just like, oh my God, if they turned to you tomorrow and said, "I quit," are you really surprised? You just gave them like the worst experience of their life in a
Yeah.
game that's supposed to be fun. And if they turn around one day, that would just break my heart. If the day my kids tell me they want to quit baseball, yeah, just being a positive parent for them.
That's all parents can do, I think, at the end of the day. Because life's crazy, sports are crazy, but if you have their back and you're positive, the rest will kind of shake itself out, I think. Well, Chad,
Yeah.
this was super fun. I appreciate your feedback. Awesome chatting with you, meeting with you, and
Thank
good luck to
you.
your boys. Good luck to your page. We're excited to follow both.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.